Hey, what's up everyone? Welcome to the Photo RAW 2023.5 A to Z event. I'm Dylan Kotecki and I'm joined by Dan Harlacker.
Hello friends.
We can't wait to show you the exciting features inside the upgrade to 2023, so let's jump into it.
Yeah, let's go. First off, I want to show you the improvements that we've made in resize. If you've been watching, you've seen some cool videos that we've shown you on resize 2023.5 already. All those great features are now integrated into Photo RAW. Let me show you. So let's take a photo like this, straight out of the camera. I'm going to zoom in to 100%. Actually, let's go even closer. Let's go to 200%. This is a fairly common situation that happens. The photo is a little bit noisy and it's also a little bit out of focus. When you magnify that, even using an AI resizing algorithm, it's going to amplify those problems as well. It's still going to be out of focus. The noise is still going to be there. The noise will probably even get bigger when we amplify it. So we've added tools, noise reduction and face recovery, to solve both of those problems. So I'm going to start off by blowing this photo up 200% here. And we'll zoom in and we'll notice this is the default settings for resize. You'll still see all of that grain and it becomes a pattern in the photo. Well, we can solve that just by turning on noise reduction. The noise reduction is powered by no noise. It will actually go through and wipes away all of that noise in the photo.
Oh, wow.
Just like that.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and when we turn on face recovery, watch this, it will actually go through, uses the information that's in the original photo to create a new, sharper face. So you notice there's with face recovery on. Let me turn this on and off so you can see before and after.
Wow.
Much better. Let's take a look
That
at
is
the
incredible,
little
Dan.
tyke over here. Before and after.
That is incredible, Dan.
Yeah, it's a pretty crazy technology. Let me show you on a couple more photos so you can really kind of see how it works. Here's a good example. Let's say we want to use this photo for our profile pic. Granted, that's not me, but imagine if I was at a fun party like that. I'm going to grab my crop tool and we're going to crop ourselves out of that photo. So we don't have all of our friends there. We want just that central shot. Now the problem is that's pretty darn tiny, right?
Yeah.
I mean, this is only like 400 by 600 pixels. That's not a lot to work with. I need something bigger for my
Especially
profile
from,
pic.
you know, sort of a styled photograph already.
Exactly, and it's also a little bit out of focus too.
Totally.
This is an old Polaroid shot. So watch, I can blow it up 200%, and I'll just turn on face recovery.
Wow.
And there you go. Look, see the eyes pop out, the teeth pop out. All those details are brought back. So now that tiny little photo I can use.
That looks amazing.
It's great for film scans or old iPhone photos from the past. And that's really the noise reduction. A lot of us have old photos that have quite a bit of noise. And that noise can be caused by over sharpening. It can be caused by JPEG artifacting. This photo has a ton of JPEG artifacting. You can really see it here in the waterfall. If I zoom in, you can see it almost looks like 8 by 8 pixel blocks in the photo. And if I magnify that, that's going to become even worse. Let's do the same thing. I'm going to zoom in just 2x on this photo.
Oh yeah, very
and
pixelated.
you can see, look how bad all those JPEG artifacts become.
Yeah, they get
very, very obvious in the photo. So I'll just turn noise reduction on, I'll turn face recovery on, and watch here, it's gonna wipe that away.
Wow.
I'm gonna go back to 100% view on our photo. And let's take a look. I'm gonna show you before and after. There's before, all the artifacts, and we've got a soft face. And
Yeah,
after,
that's amazing.
reducing the noise and recovering the face.
That does a great job.
Yeah. All right, so all those great new resize features located right inside of the resize that you're already using inside of ON1 Photo RAW. The next thing I want to talk about is masking. We all use a lot of masking in our editing, and one of the tools that's very popular for cleaning up those masks is the refine brush, or the mask refine brush. We've made it even more powerful than it was before, and we've added a secret new mode to it as well. So let me show you that in action.
Let's check it out.
All right, so this is a classic example of where the refine brush is needed. Things like branches and hair. Those are the toughest things to mask. In this case, I'm going to add a local adjustment, and I want to change the sky to make this look more like a sunset. So I'm going to go to my local adjustment tab. I'm going to use Mask AI to make an adjustment that is applied to my sky. Now, if you're paying attention, you'll notice that this little Mask AI window looks a little bit different. The cancel and apply buttons and the paint in, paint out are all located in the same window. And there's also a new background and foreground option. I'll show you those in just a minute, but I'm going to pick sky and paint in. And that's going to apply that adjustment to the sky. You notice how it's darkened up the sky, but there's some spots in the trees that it can't get in. It can't get into those deepest...
By that horizon line area, yeah.
You know, those deep, deep, deep areas on the inside it can't get into. That's where the refine brush comes in. So I don't want to make this bluer though. I actually want to make it warmer. So while I'm here, let's just make the adjustment I'm thinking about. I want to warm up that sky.
That looks nice.
A bit. Maybe a little darker isn't a bad idea, actually.
Just a hair, yeah.
Make it just a little darker.
Quarter stop.
All right, now let me zoom in a little closer so you guys can see. Actually, that's a little too far zoomed in. There we go. So it's done a pretty good job just using Mask AI, but there's a little bit left over here and a little left over here. And you can see a little bit of blue tinge on those branches. So I'm just going to grab the refine brush. There's a new method combo box up here where I can choose different modes that fine tune it based on my subject matter. Of course, I'm working on branches, so I'm going to use the hair and branches option. But there's different options for if you're working with a hard edge subject or something that's soft and out of focus. You would use the diffuse edges option, or a really noisy original, you'd use the noisy images option. I'm going to use the hair and branches option, and now I'm just going to make my brush a little bit bigger here, and I'll just kind of paint over that photo. I'm going to do about half the tree at a time just so it's easier to see the results.
Oh yeah.
There we go. Let me get a little bit over here on the horizon on these little trees here.
You can definitely tell though, especially on that right side looks much better.
Yeah. Well, let's do the same thing over here. We'll get this side of the tree done.
Yep.
There we go.
That looks awesome.
Take a look at that mask. You can see that's a much more precise mask than what we had before. And I'll show you a couple other little tricks that I like to use in the global masking options to really finish this up. You can see there's still a little bit of blue, and that's because the blue is actually transmitted through those semi-transparent areas. So to fix that, there's a couple ways to do it. My favorite way is I'm just going to grab this levels control right here, and this is just going to darken the mask a little bit. So I'll just pull it to the left, and you see how all that blue disappears on the branches.
Oh yeah.
It's making it just a little bit stronger in the mask.
It's cleaning it up a little bit, for sure.
Cleans it up just like that. Pretty handy. The other thing you can do is you can also change your global mask density. So let's say I actually want to add a little bit of that warmth to the foreground, but not all of it. So I can grab the density slider and I can actually soften the overall strength of the mask. Let's go back to a fit view so you can see this in action. Watch, when I grab this density slider, you can see how it's adding that warmth to the foreground.
Oh yeah.
This is with no mask at all. It would be a little too warm. I lose that green that I like, but I can dial in just the right amount of warmth so that the foreground and the background match each other better, just like that.
That looks awesome.
Let's look at before and after. Before and after.
Yeah, much more dramatic.
Yeah, and that's just using a single local adjustment on this photo. Now, let me show you some other cool things you can do with this tool. Like I mentioned, there's also a new option called Encircle Mode that you can use with this tool. It allows you to create an entirely new mask or edit an existing mask by just circling something that you want to add or subtract from your mask. Let's say I want to change her hair color. I want to make it more red. Well, normally I would have to go through and paint that by hand with a brush. It would take a very long time, a very tedious process to do. But watch what I can do here. I'm just going to grab a local adjustment. I'll grab the refine brush. And all I do is I'm just going to make a outline around the edge of the hair. I'm not going to paint over all of it. I want to make a circling shape. So I'm just going to kind of paint over the hair, over her ear, around the outside. Make sure I get into all those semi-transparent areas like that, but leave the middle open. That's the key to making Encircle Mode work. You have to actually encircle something. So when you leave that hole in the middle, it's going to know I want to create a brand new mask from it. Now I'm just going to add a little warmth to it here. So I'm just going to move my temperature slider up to change the warmth and give her more of a red hair look. If you look at the mask, you can see how just by making that circling shape, it was able to find all those tiny little hairs and create a great looking mask for it. And that completely white area in the middle, that was the part that I encircled. So it's going to be completely white in that region, just like that. Let me show you again, before and after.
That's super cool.
It's a great tool for using to make very difficult selections that automatic tools can't do as well. Let me show you another one.
Like intricate objects, things like that. Multiple objects on one thing.
Multiple
lots of
objects,
different things,
or things that are similar colors, or a lot of times, you know, like Mask AI is designed to select an entire object, not a portion of an object.
Totally.
So, you know, if it's a person, it's going to pick the whole person, but maybe I just want to change the color of their hat or their shirt or something like that.
Yeah, wheels on a car or something like that. Yep, totally.
Exactly. You know, take a photo like this one. Mask AI isn't going to be able to pick out those individual fruits. It's going to lump them together because they're both fruit, right? So if I want to edit them independently, normally I'd have to go through and either use the perfect brush, or I'd have to use the pen tool or something like that to mask these out. Watch how easy it is here. I actually want to make them both the same color. I actually had two different colored pairs. What if I want to have the same color on both sides? So I'll just use local adjustments again for this. I'll grab the refine tool and make it a little smaller. And watch, I'll just circle the first pair here. And you make my adjustment to it. I'm just going to make it a little bit more green here.
Nice.
And now I'm going to do the same thing to the other one, but it's just going to be a bigger color shift. So I'll add another adjustment, and I'll just draw.
I think you were painting the adjustment on there, Dan.
Exactly. And then I'll just draw around the edge with the refine brush again. And now I'll just shift the color to green a little bit more, maybe add a little bit of blue so that I can get that same shade of green that I have on the other
that looks
pair.
great, dude. That
Just
looks
like that.
awesome, Dano.
So watch, we went from there, that's the original photo, after, and if we want to look at just the two adjustments I made, there I turned that brown pair green, and I took the bottom one and I made it even more green, so that now we can make them match.
Yeah, that looks really good.
Yeah, it's pretty handy.
Especially for object photography or still life, things like that. It's just going to be really, really handy for all those little, intricacies and scenes and things like that.
Exactly.
Flowers, especially.
Flowers, this is a really common one. Flowers are really hard to mask. And one like this, there's a pretty shallow depth of field. There's a lot of stuff that's out of focus in the background on it. You can't create a hard edge mask and expect that to look good. The mask actually has to kind of feather to make this look correct. So masking flowers is notoriously tough, especially one like this where the edge is a little bit out of focus. We need to have a soft edge to the mask. So I'm going to add an adjustment here. We'll just let it be dark for our default. I'm going to grab the refine brush and I'm going to change my mode from hair and branches down to diffuse edges. That's the one that's going to help me create those natural looking edges.
Nice.
Yeah, exactly. Now we'll just kind of paint around the edge of the flower. We can get into the nooks and crannies when we're done if we need to here. And I'm just going to invert my mask real quick. There we go.
Oh, yeah, there we go.
Now you can see how I was able to darken that background very easily, just like that. Probably don't want to show this, but it's not horrible. And you can see the mask. It's not perfect yet, but it created the beginning of the mask for me to then go through with the refine brush to clean up those little spots.
And especially just making simple adjustments like that. I mean,
Exactly.
Looks great,
you know, oftentimes people agonize about the mask having to be absolutely perfect, and that's not true unless you're making really wild adjustments.
Or you're compositing or something like that. But most of the time with tone and color,
tone and color, sharpening, noise, any of those kind of adjustments.
Can be very
you just
sort of
need
blended.
to be in the ballpark. Yeah. As a matter of fact, adding a little feather helps in a lot of cases. It makes it look more natural to do that.
Totally.
Yeah. All right. I think I got one more I want to show you guys. This is one of my favorite things to do. It's called key shifting. It allows you to separate your subject and your background and change the relative brightness of the two. In this case, the background was brighter than the foreground. What if I want to flip it around? What if I want the background to be darker and the foreground to be lighter, like I had a fill light or a flash? We can do that after the fact using this tool. We're just going to grab that refine brush. I'm just going to paint around the edge of this little floating bird nest here. Now that's applied the darkening to the bird. I want the opposite, so I'm just going to invert the mask. I'm doing that with a Command-I or a Control-I on the keyboard, or you can click on the mask and press the invert button right there. That flips the mask from white to black to white. There we go.
Oh, yeah.
So now that background is darker, and I can now control how dark I want that background to be. I could even shift its color. Oops, that was a little too far there, huh? Maybe I want to make it a little cooler in the background.
Oh, yeah.
More like that. So before and after, just like that. And that's a tough thing to have to go through and manually mask in and out.
Oh, totally, especially with those intricate things on the, in the nest.
Definitely. You know, while I'm here, I think I'm going to show you one other feature that I really like, and that's the changes we've made to the scroll wheel. So in the past, the scroll wheel could do one of three things. It could pan the photo, it could zoom the photo, or it could change your brush properties. Now you can do all of it all at once, and it's a much more natural way to work. So to zoom the photo, all you're going to do is hold down the Option key on your keyboard on a Mac, or you're going to hold down the Alt key or the Control key on your Windows computer, and then you just scroll in and out. You can see how we have nice, smooth zoom scrolling on the photo. To pan the photo, you're just going to scroll around the photo. So I can scroll the photo around using my scroll wheel. If I only have a scroll wheel that goes one direction, if you hold the Shift key down, it'll go the other direction. So if it goes up and down, and then if you hold the Shift key, it'll go left and right. Yeah, to let you pan around. But the part that I think is the coolest is you can actually use it to change your tool size and your tool feather just by holding down other modifier keys. So on a Mac, if I hold down Command and Option and I scroll up and down, you'll see it changes my brush size. On a Windows computer, that's going to be Control and Alt. And if I hold down Option and Shift on a Mac, it'll change the feather. Or on a Windows computer, that's going to be Alt and Shift. I can then control all those without ever taking my hands off the keyboard, without ever having to go up and use different keys. I can change all those parameters just from the scroll wheel.
Super handy.
Yeah, and it just feels like a much more natural way to work too.
Yeah,
so.
Oh, totally.
All right, let's see what else was I going to show you guys today. Let's show you a little bit more Mask AI. I kind of alluded to a couple of improvements we made, those new foreground and background options. Let me show you what you can do with those. Let's take a photo like this. Very flat, not a very exciting day. What I want to do is I want to make the subject pop and the background be more subdued. And in this case, we have a good separation between our foreground and our background. So I'm going to use a local adjustment to do this. We'll click on the Mask AI option, and you'll notice that there's two new options. There's a background option. When I click on it, you'll see it picks everything that's in the background. And if I mouse over the foreground, it's going to pick whatever's in the foreground. Things that are foreground objects are people, animals, food. Those are the things that we're going to group in the foreground. Everything else is going to be considered background. So it just kind of makes it easier for you rather than having to select multiple things. You can just pick it all at once. When you just want the general,
you just want the general subject.
Exactly. So I'm just going to say, in this case, I want the foreground, and I want to paint this adjustment in. So it's going to add the adjustment to the area that's blue. There we go. We'll click on that. And in this case, I want to make it lighter, not darker here. So I'm going to brighten her up a little bit. And then I want to do the opposite. Let's make the background a little darker. So we'll add another local adjustment. I'm going to do the same thing. I'm just going to pick background instead of foreground. So we'll say background and paint in. And we'll let it go a little bit darker, just like that. And I can control how strong I want that adjustment to be. And maybe even I want to shift the color a little bit. Maybe we want to make the... Maybe I want to shift the color a little bit too. Maybe I'll grab the color temperature and I'm just going to make it a little cooler in the background like that.
Oh yeah.
So let's look at the before and after. Out. Yeah, so there's before and after, just like that.
Much more dramatic.
Didn't have to pick up a single brush to do that. It was all done with Mask AI by making those selections automatically for us.
Can you do the same thing in effects, do you know?
Of course, you can do the same thing in effects. Any place where you see that master masking menu, so you can do that on layers, you can do it on filters, you can do it on local adjustments, all works exactly the same way.
Awesome, awesome.
Yeah. All right, the last thing I want to show you, and this is something you guys are going to be really excited about because you've been asking for it for years, are the changes to the curves filter. So I'm going to go to Effects.
Incredibly excited about this one, Dan.
This is pretty sweet. So I'm going to go to Effects. I'm going to add a Curves filter. This also lives in the Tone Enhancer as well. And right off the back, you notice it looks a little bit different.
Yes.
There's now a histogram in the background, and it gives you a gradient in the background and a tighter grid in the background to work with. The things that I think are the coolest about it, though, is actually this little guy right here, this new dropper tool. This is going to allow you to set a point in the photo and adjust it just by dragging up or down. So I'm just going to select this. I want to go pick a darker tone in my photo, like up here in the trees. I click, you'll see how it sets a point on my curve. And now as I drag down, it's going to move that point down. Or if I drag up, it's going to move it up. So I can, without actually going into the curves pane, I can make that adjustment. So I can make a darker adjustment there. If I want to bring down the highlights, I can do the same thing. I can set the point, and then I can drag up or down to brighten that up. So I'm able to add a nice mid-tone contrast boost.
Sort of S-curve right there.
Add your little S-curve right there, just using that dropper tool.
Do you want to hit the before and after real quick? That looks awesome.
Yeah, I'll just turn the pane on and off.
In just two.
Yeah, so that's before.
Two little drops.
And after. But there's more that you can do with it too. So let's say I wanted to move that. I can click on it and I can move it around. Let's say oops, I accidentally clicked. This happens to me all the time. Now I got that point on there I don't want, right? Well, I can right click and I can remove control points that I accidentally put on the curve. And I can also reset the entire curve from that context menu as well. Or maybe you need a really precise adjustment. For that selected point, I can now type in the in and out values for a selected point. So let's say I want to work on this one right here. I can now, just using my arrow keys, nudge that point up or down if I want to be really precise.
Yep.
And this is on every channel. It's not just on the master channel. I can go to the other color channels as well. And I have that handy gradient because I can never remember which way to pull it to make it red or green or things like that. It actually gives you that gradient.
That is incredibly helpful.
It's easier to see, you know, the lines are thicker and the dots are bigger. So it's just a more modernized version of the curves dialog. And I think you guys are really going to love it. I find it very, very useful in my day-to-day editing.
That is a slick new upgrade to the curves filter. I love the gradient and the histogram in the background. Looks awesome, Dano.
Yeah. All right, that's everything we have to show you guys on Photo RAW 2023.5. But that's just what's new in .5. If you haven't upgraded to 2023 yet, there's tons of stuff that we added in 2023 and in 2023.1. Check the website and there's actually a chart that shows you all of the things that we've changed. So it's a great time to upgrade if you haven't yet. We've also added support for the Nikon Z8 in this release, tons of additional new lens profiles, and we squashed a few bugs along the way as well. So we're really excited to get it in your guys' hands, let you guys start to create some awesome photos with it. Thanks for watching.
Thanks so much, everyone. Thanks for joining us.